Hello everyone, this is Qimeng. The title of article we select is Contextual Word Learning During Reading in a Second Language, an eye movement study. The part we select is about contextual word learning and eye movement research. In this part, the author tried to establish the connection between CWL and eye movement. I will introduce the first part of this section. In this section, several studies are discussed. First is about the contextual word learning in L1 reading studies with single sentences tests and semantical sportive context. These studies found that the pattern on no words is characterized by longer initializations and gaze duration, and more regressions back. And no words are processed as low-case words in the learning instead of the meaningless letters. This is the basis of the research. Next, there is about contextual word learning in L1 context by tracking eye movement. The author points out that related studies are limited, and some studies conclude that the repetition of unknown words can reduce the reading time, but it's not true in short tests or meaningless sentences. Next part is about the contextual word learning in English as second language context. There are three major studies are introduced here. The first is about the research conducted by Goldfraud in 2013. It recorded Dutch English bilingual eye movements during reading English text. And the main purpose of this study was to investigate whether attention paid to unfamiliar words during L2 reading resulted in better learning. And through this research, the author confirms that even in English as a second language context, no words are regarded as the low frequency vocabulary instead of meaningless letters. Another research is by the same guy tracked the eye movement of native and non-native English speakers during the reading, but it found that there were no clear differences between the L1 and L2 readers in word learning. Another study investigates bilingual university students read a novel in their native and non-native speaker language, reported that for the same participants, L2 reading was characterized longer sentences reading times, more fixations, short circuit, and less walking skip compared to L1 reading, but no difference in regression rate, which indicates there's no difference between L1 and L2 readers in word recognition. Okay, next I will give you two examples of my summary. Okay, the first, on the left column is the summary, and on the right column is the original content. The words in the red is about the studies or the L1 reading studies with single sentence context. It shows that longer initial fixations are no words compared to familiar words, and more regression back to no words, and gaze duration are no words compared with familiar words. So I conclude that L1 readers spend more time on no words in single sentences due to longer first fixation, gaze duration, and more regressions. And next part is in the semantical sportive context, refer to the multiple sentence context, and the readers also need more time on reading novel words, but it will characterized by small regression back to these words and longer processing times. Longer processing times refer to that readers make an effort to derive no words meaning and integrate them into context, so the context will influence the process of reading. So I conclude that in semantic context, you need more time to encode the no words in terms of context and have a higher rate of regression back. Besides, the word length will also influence the reading times. So I summarized it, their reading speed is also influenced by the word length. All these studies given by the also want to indicate the assumption that unfamiliar orthographical legal letter string are processed as lexical items were regarded as the low frequency words instead of the meaningless vocabularies. Just as mentioned, this is the basis of the study. Another example, and the first part is introduce how the study is conducted, and the next part is about the similarity between the L1 and L2 readers, and the third part is the difference between the L1 and the L2 studies. So I just list through one sentence to list the three major parts. Okay, another example is the paraphrase, and this is the original test. There are two short sentences, and combine this into one. The go forward recorded Dutch English bilingual eyes movement during reading short English tests adapt to the participants' L2 proficiency levels. The main goal of this study was to investigate whether attention paid to unfamiliar words during L2 reading resulted in better learning. And I paraphrase this sentence like this: the research conducted by Guildford aims to explore if more time-consuming or unfamiliar vocabularies will bring powerful results on word learning by tracking down English readers' eye movement. When the readers of English articles extracted from newspapers and magazines, but written based on readers' language level. So this is my part. Thanks.
Hello everyone, I'm Yang Yixuan. Next, I will continue to summarize the content of the selected chapters. Now, let's look at the first paragraph. As we can see, there is a lot of words in this part. So, before summarizing, I will first break the passage down, explain what each section is doing, and find its main points. I think this method is very useful for analyzing very dense and complex academic language. First of all, we can break up the paragraph quickly with some very obvious marker words. For example, when we see keywords like however, we can quickly know that there is a transition relationship. That is, the context here express two views. Using this method, it's very easy for us to break down the keyword articles quickly. Through a quick glance, we can divide this passage into three parts, roughly. The first part deals with the differences in reading time and eye movements between noun words and control words when people first read them. The second part is about the effect of the occurrence frequency of words on the noun words and the control words. The third part is comparative analysis of the experimental results and the existing research results. The simple split of paragraph content can help us summarize the article in a better and more efficient way. There are many examples and evidences in the article to support the author's point of view, but we only summarize the main points in the summary process and don't include these specific details. I tried to put author's main points into short and concise words in my own words. Here we should notice that When we summarize, we can only repeat and summarize the author's point of view and cannot add our own subjective opinion or additional information that is not in the original text. The last part, the argument of Elgort and other researchers, I think is a very good summary of the previous article and provides strong evidence for the article, so I quoted it directly. When quoting, we need to enclose the whole part of the quote in quotation marks and copy the exact text, including symbols and capital letters. Quotation can make the content of the article clearer and arguments more convincing. In addition to summarizing and quoting, we can also paraphrase when summarizing accepted article. Paraphrase, as the name implies, is to explain the content of the article. We usually use the method more often in the interpretation of concepts. Unfortunately, in this section, I didn't find a very appropriate concept explanation part, so I have just chosen a short paragraph to share with you some of the ways in which paraphrasing can be done. First, we can see the synonym substitution method. For example, we can replace the word podcast with the synonym word foreigner, or explain it as lead and influence. In addition, we can change the voice of the sentences. For example, the passive in the last sentences of the original text is changed into the active voice. In addition, changing the parts of speech of a word, breaking a long sentences into two short sentences, and changing grammar and sentences structure are also commonly used in paraphrasing. Okay, this is the end of today's presentation. I hope you can gain something through our sharing. Thank you for your listening.